Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation from Railbookers on 7 of the most scenic rail routes in Switzerland. We're going to talk about these great train journeys, some fantastic destinations, and a whole lot more. So let me go ahead and begin by introducing myself. My name is Andy Channel. I'm the Vice President of Product here at Yankee Leisure Group and Railbookers. My team and I design and work with these amazing vacations we're going to talk about today, these great train routes, all of our hotels and sightseeing. And I'm going to share with you the benefit of our knowledge, not only from that, but also from firsthand experience of having traveled quite a bit of Switzerland by train myself. As we're going ahead and get started, just a little bit of housekeeping for you. There are some free handouts attached to today's presentation, and on your screen there I've indicated where you can go ahead and click through to download and save those for future travel planning and reference. Also, there's going to be a question and answer period, a brief question and answer period at the end of today's presentation. Anything you want to know, folks, anything at all that comes up during the course of our discussion today, feel free to jot it right in there, and I'm going to get to as many of those live as I'm able to today. I also may throw out a question or two for you as well, and if I do so and you want to reply or answer, that would be the place to go ahead and toss in your reply. I did want to mention, I started at the beginning by introducing myself from Yankee Leisure Group and Railbookers, so I did want to mention who we are. Who is Yankee Leisure Group? Well, we've been around since 1972, when our first brand, Yankee Holidays, was launched. Today, we operate 3 different brands. Amtrak Vacations, we're the official tour operator for Amtrak in North America. Railbookers, offering independent rail vacations worldwide, some of which we're going to talk about today. And of course, our original Yankee Holidays brand, selling some great destination vacations around North America, still going strong after nearly 5 decades. Few important points worth mentioning, and in speaking to so many of our customers, we consistently hear why it is they love traveling with Railbookers and planning their train vacations with Railbookers. And I think these 7 points really sum up the feedback that we get from so many of you, and I want to touch on them just very briefly. Average hold time being 3 seconds, and really what that comes down to is our accessibility. The fact is that with so much changing in the world and everything moving to virtual or over the phone or over the internet types of communications, nothing face-to-face, it seems like long holds and delays and getting a response, delays and deliveries, everything is sort of slowed down. But we're very proud that even during these challenging times, our rail and vacation experts are standing by, and you wait an average of 3 seconds when you call in to get in touch with one of our team. We offer bucket list experiences, and I'm not just talking about great destinations where the train goes. I'm actually talking about the train journey itself, folks. In fact, we're going to see quite a few of these today where you're going to realize very quickly the train is not only a classic way to travel, it sort of harkens back to a more traditional means of seeing the world or seeing countryside, but also what we're talking about is some of the most breathtaking and beautiful scenery accessible anywhere. In fact, the train often goes to places you would never get to or be able to view any other way than by a rail journey. Freedom and flexibility. It's very important to mention every one of our trips is an independent travel experience. And what does that mean? Well, it means there is no tour leader, meaning there's no one there every minute of every day directing what you should be doing to have fun on your vacation. There's no group of strangers with a group agenda you have to follow every moment of every day during what's supposed to be a relaxing vacation. Our vacations, our trips by train, folks, you have the benefit of our travel experts planning and prepping and making sure all the pieces are set up right for your perfect dream vacation. And yet when you get there, you're going with just those you brought with you. You're going at your own pace. You experience each destination, each train journey the way you want to, at the speed you want to. The scenic way to travel, which I alluded to a little bit before in terms of amazing vistas and landscapes only viewable by train. It truly is the most scenic travel mode I'm aware of. In fact, to share an example, I'd ask yourselves this question. Have you ever met somebody, and maybe there's one out there, but have you ever met someone who's come off of a flight somewhere and said, I just had the most amazing flight. The scenery, oh, it was amazing. I can't wait to do that again. At least for me, I have never had that experience, nor have I heard of any others having that experience. Very, very different traveling by train. Room to roam. Unlike a flight, unlike other modes of transportation, there is no little sign telling you buckle in your seatbelt, stay put, don't move around unless you have to. It's a very relaxed and comfortable experience being on board a train on a scenic journey, on a vacation by train. You can get up, you can head on down to the parlor car. Most trains will have an observation area, depending on where you're talking about, you're traveling in the world. The ability to get up, roam around, and be comfortable and relaxed is a big plus of traveling on a train. At Railbookers, we not only offer some great vacations based on what we know are our best sellers, the most popular ways to experience places like Switzerland and beyond, We also give our customers the ability to customize, to modify, and adjust each and every one of these trips to ensure that it's not just our best recommendation, it's a vacation that takes into account your personal tastes, your personal wishes. It really is a dream vacation fitted to exactly what you're looking for. And we are a one-stop shop. As you'll see when we go through our itineraries today and some of the experiences by train, our vacations aren't just us planning your train journey for you. It's all the pieces. It's the hotels, the sightseeing, culinary and cultural experiences, you name it. Wherever you go, we're taking care of all that for you. Our Railbookers team is a global one. With 24-hour support available around the world, we have teams based on both coasts of the US, in Toronto, in London, and down in Sydney, Australia, meaning as you're planning your trip, while you're on your trip, either way, our support team is there standing by. As we mentioned, just a quick, short phone call and wait away to speak to an expert who's there to assist you in planning or during the course of your vacation. I know a lot of customers are wondering too. We've seen over the past few months so much change in the world and so much disruption in our personal lives, in our professional lives. And we get a lot of questions about what happens if something else changes? What happens if I'm not able to go? What happens if something in the world changes to prevent me from going? Well, we want to let you know, for those of you with bookings already, and we have a couple on this presentation today who are already traveling with us, and thank you for your business. We really appreciate it. And for those of you considering your next vacation by train, we wanted to let you know that any new or existing reservation made up through May 31st of this year, so long as we know up to 5 days prior to when you're scheduled to go that you're not going to make it, and it doesn't matter why. It could be something in your personal life, could be something in the world. The reason does not matter, folks. You don't incur a single charge, a single penalty, a cancellation fee, nothing. The entire value of your trip is protected. That credit can be applied to the same exact journey for a different set of dates, doesn't matter when. It can be applied to a different date in a completely different trip. Maybe you were going to Switzerland, now you're thinking about Scandinavia. Maybe you were originally going to Canada, now you want to go to Alaska. It does not matter, folks. Whatever happens for you or in the world, we have you protected. One thing I love sharing, particularly with those who are new to rail travel, as so many are when they first come to us, is maps like this. And that spider web of colored lines right there in front of you, that's the European rail system. The good news is Railbookers is here to make all that easy. We do all the planning, we take care of all the scheduling. You get to just focus on the destinations, the amazing experiences you're going to enjoy. You don't have to worry about a single thing. That planning is all taken care of for us. So it highlights how many great places you can go to by train. But no, we're here to make that easy for you. And I have to tell you, our subject matter for today, Switzerland, there is nowhere where that complexity and opportunity is greater. In fact, having traveled quite a bit of the world by train, and Switzerland specifically, I will tell you there is no country that I can think of that is better designed for a train vacation and provided with more breathtaking routes, more spectacular scenery than Switzerland is. Another nice thing to know is that our long-standing partnership with train companies the world over means insider access as well. So not only that level of expertise that comes from our partnership with trains worldwide, it also means that often you have the ability to book trains and rates months and even years ahead of when they're available to the public. We have experts that know exactly how to get you your preferred seating, all those little details that are so important. And our partnerships, our access, and our expertise are in your hands when you book with Railbookers, whether you're traveling through Europe, whether you're doing a train vacation through North America, or whether you're considering something beyond. Now, the thing we get a lot of questions about currently, and no surprise, we're all seeing so much change in the world and wondering, okay, when my next vacation? What are the safety guidelines? What is being done differently to ensure a healthy and a safe environment? I want to touch very briefly on a few things our European rail friends are doing to maintain a safe environment. Whether it's maintaining facial coverings in stations and on the trains, whether it's staff or passengers. They are posting, incidentally, to pretty much every station in Europe now is having guidelines posted throughout the station on what the expectations are for all people in that environment, whether they're staff or whether they're guests. Food and drink on board has moved to a completely cashless environment, so while you can obtain food and snacks and that sort of thing on some lines, even when that option is available, it's done in a cashless way so that you don't have to come into contact any more than necessary with others. Seating configuration, spacing, and the amount of seats allocated on board have been changed to allow for more social distancing to ensure that you and your fellow travelers in your group are not necessarily confined or up close or in close contact with others on board. Pre and post cleanings are extremely thorough to maintain a sanitized and safe and healthy set of train equipment. And ticket control now is also contactless, so no physical handling of tickets. So very safe, very socially distanced environment. Perfect way to travel going forward. Now, 2 days to 2 years. I wanted to put that up here, and you're probably wondering why or what that means. And I want to let you know 2 days to 2 years is sort of the window where we can plan your next train vacation. Meaning, you're thinking ahead and you're saying, I'm looking ahead to the horizon. You're like me. I tend to plan 1-2 vacations ahead of schedule. No problem. We can book a train vacation for you up to 2 years out. Again, way ahead of when any rates or any ability to do so is available to the general public. It also means for those of you who are also like myself and haven't been able to travel a lot recently and looking forward to something this year, something in the short term, we can also get you out there on the rails in as little as 2 days. So whether you're that long-term planner dreaming it of the 2021 vacation or on into 2022, we can certainly help you. And for those who are eager to get out and have another great experience this year, when the time permits, we can certainly accommodate you very, very quickly and easily on your next dream vacation. Now, a couple different times I've used the word train experts and rail experts and vacation experts, and I want you to know where that term comes from. And the fact is, whether you know it or didn't know it before this, every single member of our Railbookers team, every single one, every single year, gets out and experiences our product firsthand, meaning they're out there on our trains, in our hotels, experiencing our sightseeing, dining in our culinary experiences. When I say expert, I know that when you're calling in, you're speaking with someone who's experienced these trips and these services and these trains firsthand and is giving you recommendations based on that level of expertise. It's not something they've learned about, it's something they've done. And that includes yours truly. I got a little cameo of myself down there, that bottom right image, folks, up on top of the Jungfraujoch, which we're going to speak about a good bit today. So that's Railbookers and rail travel in general. Let's talk a little bit about what we came for today, and that is Switzerland and some of the great reasons to travel through Switzerland, some of the great trains. But let's start with the best reasons to travel this amazing country by train. And the first really goes back to something we touched on very lightly, and that is the fact that the journey should be as spectacular as a destination when you go on vacation. There is no better place for taking in mighty mountain ranges, jaw-dropping views, waterfalls. No better place than riding the rails in Switzerland. So when we talk about a scenic journey and bucket list experiences, Switzerland is it when it comes to train journey. You could almost call it the crown jewel of train vacations. One thing I find fascinating about Switzerland as well is that it is the crossroads of Europe, both geographically and culturally. You may not know this, but there's 4 different linguistic and cultural regions all contained within Switzerland. It's a great place to travel to and experience that sort of thing, whether it's the Italian-speaking regions, the German or French-speaking regions, or even the southeast of the country where a more unique language, Romansh, which is a little bit more obscure, is spoken in several communities. It's a fascinating place, both culturally at the heart of Europe and at the crossroads of Europe, and geographically, as we'll see in a little bit. Another great reason, many cities, including places like Zermatt, are not accessible by car. Which I touched on. I said sometimes the train will take you to places you can't get to many other ways or any other way. There is something amazing about traveling to a destination where you're never going to hear the sound of a motorcycle or an engine or a car, and it's just about that tranquil mountain sounds, the wildlife, the wind blowing through the trees. It really is something special, and so many of the destinations within Switzerland are truly unique from anything you've ever seen before. Another thing, bucket list journeys like the Glacier Express and the Bernina Express, those trains, which are featured in several of our trips, which we're going to talk about in detail today. Many call into us or reach out to us looking for a vacation. They know about train journeys in general. They have a sense of it. Either they've seen it in old film, or they've heard about it, or they did a trip when they were younger with parents or grandparents and want to experience something again. But I have to tell you, trips like that, the Bernina and Glacier in particular, those express trains, those are actually requested by name so often. They're so well known. So truly a bucket list destination for trains and for sightseeing on land. Another thing too, there's some great luxury experiences in and around Switzerland that are possible, whether it's great hotels, but even on the train, things like Excellence Class on the Glacier Express, which is brand new this past year. So some great reasons to travel through Switzerland by train. The other thing people often want to know is, when is the best time to go? I get this question a lot. When should I go? When should I go? If you're looking for the best balance of weather and the chance to get out and sightsee, my personal recommendation is June through September. But really the rail is mostly around. There's a couple periods where the train does stop for a little bit, but they're very small. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to what it is you're looking to get out of the vacation. Maybe you've done Switzerland before and you've done it in the summer and you want to see that winter landscape, that winter wonderland that Switzerland can turn into in the colder months. That's a great reason to go. Others may be saying, hey, I want to go into a little bit quieter, where beginning of October, first couple of weeks of October may be a great chance to visit when the crowds slow down a little bit in some of the cities, if cities are more what you're looking for. Or maybe others are just looking for the best value, the best price to go. And that's certainly another great reason to recommend some different months as well. What I would say on this question, folks, overall, June through September is fantastic, but it's really about you. So when you speak with our expert and they get to know you a little bit and learn what's most important to you, they'll help make a recommendation on time based on your specific needs and wishes. So without further ado, let's talk about a couple of specific ways to experience certain trains on certain great destinations within Switzerland. And the first trip I wanted to talk about is Scenic Switzerland from Zurich. Right off the bat, one thing I wanted to mention, we talked about our ability to customize or to adjust trips to suit taste. That can even come down to the routing of a trip. So if you'll notice on the map here, we indicate it does start in Zurich, but it can also start in Basel. The fact is it can start where anywhere the train can connect you to. So whether you're somebody who's flying in and beginning your trip in Zurich, common airport destination, or whether you're getting off of a river cruise in Basel and want to go for a nice journey through the Alps to wrap up your vacation, we can make that adjustment to suit any starting point, no problem. So let's run through this itinerary quickly and some of the highlights. So you're going to begin with that arrival to Zurich. The train system is so well built and so extensive, it's very easy. You arrive, say you fly into Zurich, take the train right into Zurich Central Station, you change trains there and head on down through Kur. You're following along the Bernina Express route from Kur on into St Moritz, where you're going to stop for 2 nights. That is your base for exploring. Another great train journey called the Bernina Express, which I mentioned before. You're going to take this journey south up into the mountain passes, up into the high peaks, past some beautiful mountain lakes, and then winding on down through the valleys, these lush valleys that head down towards the Italian border and cross the Italian border into the small town of Tirano on the other side. We get a small chance to explore before returning to St Moritz for your second night. From there, you're going to take another well-known and epic train journey, the Glacier Express, departing St Moritz, traveling by way of Kur, on across the heart of Switzerland, and on down to the mountain town of Zermatt, which I had mentioned before. Charming place. It's also very well known because looming above the town itself is the most photographed and most famous peak, I would argue, in all of Switzerland, the Matterhorn. You're going to get some spectacular views on that. We actually have a sightseeing train experience included for the 2 nights that you're there in Zermatt. We head up on the Gornergrat Cog Railway that climbs high into the mountains. Spectacular views of Zermatt below, the valleys, the surrounding mountain ranges, and of course the mighty Matterhorn. After experiencing Zermatt, the Cog Railway, getting some great selfies with the Matterhorn in the background, if you're anything like myself and my family, you're going to board the train again and continue on to Lausanne. On the way there, you're going to actually stop off. You're going to head on over to one night. You can experience this beautiful town. This is actually in the French-speaking western part of Switzerland, so different vibe to the places you'll experience in the southeast or as you pass through Zermatt. It's located right on the shores of the lake there, right by Lake Geneva. Charming architecture, beautiful place. You're there for a night. You're going to head out from Lausanne after experiencing the lake in this charming town, stopping in the small Swiss Riviera section of a little town called Montreux. Glitzy, beautiful lakeside town. You get a chance to explore a little bit there. There's some great points to jump off and explore. For example, it's a very quick train ride, which we can easily arrange for you from there to Chateau de Chillon or Castle Chillon, the most popular and most photographed castle in Switzerland. It's actually located right on the lake itself and is that perfect fairy tale looking castle everybody has in their mind when you visit different parts of Europe. After visiting Montreux briefly, you're going to board the GoldenPass Line, traveling through some amazing valleys, mountains, past spectacular lakes, and on up to Lucerne for 3 nights. While you're in Lucerne, you'll do a day trip. You're going to depart out by train and you do a round trip journey to the Jungfraujoch, which is basically the highest train station, the greatest elevation in Europe you can reach by train. You're up at the top of the mountain itself, unparalleled views of Switzerland and Swiss mountains from the top, and some amazing train journeys heading both up and down the mountain through different valleys and communities that sort of hug the valley floor and so forth in and around this region. So you get that beautiful mountain experience up on the Jungfraujoch. One other peak you're going to visit while you're staying in Lucerne is Mount Pilatus, which is a fascinating journey. In fact, there's 3 different ways to get to Mount Pilatus from Lucerne. We'll help you select the right one. My personal favorite, known as the Golden route to get there, involves a beautiful cruise along Lake Lucerne, cog railway experience up to the top of Mount Pilatus, and then a cable car journey down the opposite slopes back down to the valley floor and on into Lucerne. Really, really amazing mountain visit. After experiencing all these peaks, Lucerne, spending some time in this beautiful historic medieval town right there on Lake Lucerne itself, you'll head on back to Zurich or Basel, back home or to the rest of your journey from there. Great way to experience Switzerland. And it features, as I mentioned, 2 of the most famous trains anywhere in the world, the Glacier Express and the Bernina. Let's start with a little bit of an explanation of what the Glacier Express is. It basically follows a route that runs between Zermatt and St Moritz. So Zermatt in the southwest, St Moritz in the southeast, and cuts across the center of the country. It's sometimes affectionately referred to as the slowest express train in the world, and with good reason. It slows down and takes in some amazing scenery as you travel across Switzerland. Whether it's valley explorations, whether it's the mountain passes, rolling past some glittering lakes, or treks through some of the quaint mountain villages, this train journey really has it all. It links several different areas of Switzerland together in those 2 wonderful and distinct communities at either end that I mentioned, Zermatt in the west and St Moritz in the southeast. Its tracks also take you to the varied and impressive stretch of Swiss countryside known as the Grand Canyon of Switzerland, which is right about the midpoint of that entire route, just shortly before Kur, if you were traveling from Zermatt east, or right after Kur, heading from St Moritz, say, west. Keep an eye out for that one. You will take more photographs, in my opinion, on this stretch of the train than anywhere else. Another great thing about the Glacier Express, the panoramic windows in these train cars that basically run from waist level right on up to the ceiling, mean that you have absolutely unimpeded views right up to the sky. Every peak, every valley, every cliff, every roaring mountain, river that you pass is yours to see with great views, spectacular views. The other train I mentioned as being very popular, the Bernina Express. The route of this is roughly north-south between Kur down to St Moritz and ultimately down to Toronto, just across the Italian border in northern Italy. It is equally magnificent, in my opinion. There's some debate between experts who travel these quite a bit, which is the more beautiful. My answer to that, go see them both. I have, and I recommend you do as well. No need to choose between the 2. Basically, as you travel south to north or north to south, or do this as a round trip journey, you're going to pass landscapes that are no less impressive than what you see on the Glacier Express. The Bernina is also really special too, because along its stretch, you get a number of amazing feats of architecture as well. And you can see one of them in the shot there. That's called the Landwasser Viaduct, which climbs high above the valley floor, brings you right in the face of the mountain. There are a number of these along the way. Probably the other most famous one is one called the Spiral Viaduct. As you approach Toronto, the train begins to descend from the mountains. It has this one complete perfect circle you make, or loop, where the train actually loops around in a great winding arc that you can see as it descends towards Toronto and the Italian border. Really, really amazing. Also, not to be forgotten, Bernina Express, just like the Glacier, has those same panoramic windows. So as it heads out from St Moritz, for example, south and climbs high into the mountains, those views are unobstructed. Everything from horizon right up to the tops of the mountains in the sky. You're not going to miss a thing. Couple other trains worth mentioning. One that we just featured in the last vacation we looked at, and one that we're going to speak about in just a moment, are worth mentioning here. One, the GoldenPass, which basically connects Montreux to Lucerne and all points in between on a roughly east-west route. Takes in numerous mountains and passes. It goes by 8 different lakes, breathtaking scenery as it connects the Swiss Riviera on into the heart of Switzerland at Lucerne. Stops off in Montreux, as we know, which is a great spot, where you want to visit from. The other train we didn't feature yet, but we're going to in a moment, that I want to mention is the Gotthard Express. It's a very interesting journey, and it runs roughly north to south and vice versa. It connects Lucerne in the center of the country, roughly, with its southernmost region in Switzerland, or canton, as the different districts are actually referred to locally. One known as Ticino. It's a southern region that we'll discuss in greater detail in just a bit. But one other fascinating thing about this route is that it's actually a blend of train journey and scenic cruise. 2 great ways to view the scenery in Switzerland. Between Lucerne in the north and Flüelen as it heads south, or again, you can do this train either way, so whichever direction, but that stretch is actually a cruise along Lake Lucerne itself with its amazing mountain views. And then as you're departing from Flüelen south, Flüelen down to Lake Lugano at the southern extreme of the Gotthard Express, it's another awe-inspiring jaunt through soaring peaks in the Alps. Absolutely beautiful. That is featured in our next vacation, known as the Grand Tour of Switzerland. This takes in all points of the compass, all regions, everything you're going to want to see. In fact, that term, Grand Tour of Switzerland, is pretty well known. There's a number of places where you'll stop off here where you'll see a Grand Tour of Switzerland sign. You can actually take your photograph inside of it, and visitors often want to collect as many of these great photos from the different parts of Switzerland over their journey as they can. So Grand Tour of Switzerland begins with one night in Zurich. Great little town. I should mention too, the train station in Zurich is actually one of the most interesting train stations in the world. It's full of connections to all points within Europe you want to get to, and of course, all of Switzerland. But the train station and the area around it is actually very lively. There's a concert hall inside the station. There's great dining available there. It's right in the historic center of Zurich, so it's just a short walk down to the river, Lake Geneva, all the great historic hotels and restaurants that we offer right down to the center of the city. So very happening place. So you're going to start with one night there, then head to the train station and journey out from there. You're going to head on down to Interlaken for 3 nights. You're going to stop there in this little valley town. From there, you'll do a day trip up to the mighty Jungfraujoch. And you have a separate day where we're going to recommend and either include a cruise for you, either on Lake Brienz, Lake Thun, or possibly a day trip out to Meringen. You have some flexibility and some options our team will help you with there. After experiencing Interlaken, the Jungfraujoch, and the area surrounding, you're going to board that GoldenPass Line and head on down to Montreux for a visit, then on into Lausanne. You're going to explore Lausanne for 2 nights. Again, beautiful historic town right on the shores. We have a cruise included for you right out on Lake Geneva, and plenty of free time to visit, wander its streets, and really soak in the charm and the atmosphere there. From Lausanne, you'll board train again to head on down to Zermatt. Spend 2 nights, and again, this really tranquil, beautiful mountain town. Also included here is that Gornergrat Cog Railway journey up into the top of the mountains with magnificent views of the Matterhorn. From Zermatt, you'll board the Glacier Express heading east. You're going to pass through Kur and on down into St Moritz. You'll spend 2 nights in St Moritz. You get a chance to explore this town. Interesting atmosphere. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of these destinations in just a moment, but great town, very, very much a contrast to Zermatt, which we'll talk about in just a moment. From St Moritz, you're going to depart south on the Bernina Express, passing through the mountains, and on and down into Tirano. I'm going to give you a little insider tip here too, something you probably wouldn't know. So when you depart St Moritz of the southern half of the Bernina Express route, as you head on down to Italy, just after you go through the highest point of the mountains, you're going to come to a little train station called Alpgrum. The train stops there for about 10 minutes, just a quick little stop as it gets in there. My recommendation for you is take a couple minutes, just double check with the conductor, the length of the stop. It's always 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or what have you. My recommendation is get off, because I have taken what I will tell you is the most beautiful photograph, landscape photograph I have ever taken in my life at this stop. Right when you get off the train and you look just to the right there, what you're going to see is one of the most beautiful, you could argue it's the most comprehensive view of Switzerland. Huge soaring mountain peak covered with snow, a majestic tumbling, foamy waterfall coming down the side, these rock-strewn cliffs and ledges, and at the bottom, abundant forest, this opalescent green lake, that picture in our mind of what a mountain lake should look like. And a whole view in between is just full of wildflowers of yellow and pink. Absolutely spectacular stop. Great place to really capture the experience of journeying through Switzerland. So Alpgrum, that's one of my insider tips for you. In any case, Bernina will take you down to Tirano. You'll have a little bit of time there if you want to check out the local basilica, which is kind of a hidden gem, some beautiful architecture and decor inside, or just stop for a slice of pizza. There's a number of great restaurants right outside the station there. Please do so. From there, a bus is going to connect you across to Lugano, Lake Lugano. So you're going to pass through northern Italy to that southern region of Switzerland, where Lake Lugano and the town of Lugano are located. You're going to spend 2 nights there, cruise the lake, wander this fantastic town. Again, we're going to get into some town detail in just a moment. There's some surrounding mountain peaks you might want to check out, places like Monte Generoso, which you can head up to overlook the lake, the town, the whole region. From there, you're going to take that Gotthard Express. So I mentioned before, we hadn't seen that journey featured in the previous vacation. This one is included here. This starts with your train journey running south to north, right up through the mountain, through its mountains, through its many passes, up to Fluellen. Disembark the train, board that cruise right along Lake Lucerne and on into Lucerne itself. You'll stop there for a couple of evenings. From there, you get a chance to head up to the top of Mount Pilatus. Absolutely spectacular, one of my favorite stops in Switzerland. After the day trip up to Mount Pilatus, exploring Lucerne with its beautiful lakeside location, you'll return to Zurich and depart from there. So as I mentioned, everything that really Switzerland has to offer contained in one great vacation. We've talked about some amazing train journeys, and I promised I'd come back to some of the great destinations as well. So I really want to just take a moment to touch on some of the most beautiful and some of the most interesting places, those uniquely Swiss destinations featured in the Grand Tour and so many other trips that we offer through Switzerland. Interlaken, for example, is situated between two pristine lakes, Thun and Brienz, Lake Thun and Lake Brienz. It's also within sight and within easy reach of numerous mountain peaks, including the Jungfraujoch, which we've spoken about a couple of different times. Zermatt, which I've mentioned, is very, very peaceful. Views of the Matterhorn, you're never going to hear the sound of a car, an engine, anything like that. You truly feel like you're in the mountains when you're in Zermatt. It's also full of those little charming Swiss chalets we sort of have in our mind when we think about that postcard image of what Switzerland should be like. That's very much Zermatt. St Moritz, interesting contrast, very fascinating contrast to Zermatt. It's located on the sloping side of these mountains as it heads on down to the shore of the Moritz Sea or Lake St Moritz. Again, delightful contrast to the quaintness of Zermatt and located halfway along the stunning route of the Bernina Express. It's actually sort of a playground for the rich and famous with some amazing shopping, fine dining, beautiful hotels, really, really high-end hotels. So great location in the mountains, great location on that train route. But again, it's interesting to experience both Zermatt and St Moritz because they're two completely different flavors of what Switzerland can be like. Lugano in the far south, located on the shores of Lake Lugano. It's in the far south of Switzerland, which I touched on very lightly before and promised to come back to, a region that's known as Ticino. And this corner of Switzerland is a really fascinating blend of Italy and Switzerland. It's a blend in terms of landscapes, but also in terms of people, culture, language. Essentially, when you visit there, what you're going to realize it's a blend. It's Swiss mountains meeting Italian lakes, such as Lake Lugano and Lake Maggiore, which are shared with Italy. Italian is actually the preferred language of the locals. Even its architecture and the local cuisine folks are Mediterranean in a lot of ways, but with a little touch of the Swiss mountains. So truly an amazing blended cultural experience as well as scenic landscape experience when you visit Lugano and the surrounding area. Switzerland's west features a number of French-speaking communities along the shores of some of the most beautiful lakes that are to be found anywhere in the world. So Lausanne being one of those, absolutely beautiful. Geneva, of course, well known. My personal favorite is Lucerne, which is located in the heart of the country, in the center, with its historic town, historic buildings, its wooden medieval bridge still straddling the River Reuss right there as the lake empties into the river. Spectacular location, beautiful architecture. A great place to try some local Swiss cuisine. If those of you are thinking about a little bit of fondue or some local favorites, great place to do that. And surrounded by unparalleled mountain views in and around the lake and the town itself. Beautiful, beautiful place. Speaking of lakes and mountains, for those who are maybe not up to the full length of the Grand Tour or want to connect Switzerland to another journey somewhere else, or thinking of a week-long visit but want to hit the highlights, Switzerland's lakes and mountains is a great way to do that. Begins with one night in Geneva, although again, as I mentioned with customization, where your trip begins and ends has a lot of flexibility. We can adjust that certainly. So beginning with one night in Geneva, from there you're going to train on over to Montreux, that town on the Swiss Riviera. In this case, one difference is you're actually going to spend a night in this amazing destination right on the shores. Spend one evening there. From there, you're going to take the GoldenPass route on over to Interlaken for a 2-night stay and your day trip up to the Jungfraujoch, which I'll speak about a little bit more in detail in a moment. I've mentioned that destination at the top of Europe a couple of different times. I want to make sure you really understand what a great experience that is. From Interlaken, you'll depart south to Brig and pick up the Glacier Express to take you all across to Kur. You'll pass through that Grand Canyon of Switzerland I mentioned right as you hit the valley before Kur, which is my personal favorite stretch of the Glacier Express. You'll stay in Kur itself for 2 evenings, which is a really interesting place. Kur has its claim to fame that it's the longest continuously settled community in Europe, or so it's believed to be. But beautiful spot right down in this wide open valley surrounded by the mountains. Historic town itself, great base. As you take a day excursion on the Bernina Express, the full length of the Bernina Express from Kur down through St Moritz and on into Toronto and back again. You can almost consider this a highlights of Switzerland, as it takes in the 2 most famous routes, a couple of great destinations from west to east as you go along the way. Now, I wanted to mention a couple of train journeys in greater detail that we featured in a couple of vacations we've just spoken about, or one we've experienced in almost every one we're going to talk about today. So the first I want to talk about is based out of Zermatt, and that's the Gornergrat Cog Railway. And I mentioned that you can see it there in both those left side images, both the experience of the train. It's actually one of the steepest trains in the world, heads on up into the mountains. But it has that amazing and that view I think everybody is looking for when they visit Switzerland, particularly during a first visit to Switzerland. And that is that soaring peak of the Matterhorn, which looms above the town and above the railway and the whole region, in fact. Beautiful destination, a beautiful train journey to experience while you're staying in Zermatt. We include that for you in almost every visit. Another one I've mentioned several times, and I personally love very much, is the journey up to the Jungfraujoch, which we book as a train day trip. We set it up for you. It takes you up these winding valleys strewn with flowers. As you head up into the rocky, snow-capped peaks, the train gets a little bit steeper. The air gets cooler. It's crisp and fresh. And it takes you to the highest train station in Europe. In fact, the train station at the top of the Jungfraujoch is actually located inside the mountain. So when you disembark the train at the top, you're actually inside the heart of the mountain. You can head out, and you're at 13,000 feet, just over 13. I think it's 13,300 or close to feet above sea level. There's some great viewing platforms, like you see there in the bottom right image. There's chances to get out and walk on the snow and the ice cap at the top, which you can do. There's even a stretch where they've actually tunneled through a portion of the glacier, so you can walk through this bluish maze of tunnels with these amazing ice sculptures inside it. This really great experience to actually go inside the heart of a glacier, which I've never had a chance to do anywhere else in the world. So the Jungfrau, great day trip by train, ascending into the height of the mountains. But really, mountain experiences are all over the place. Whether it's that Mount Pilatus journey, which I described earlier out of Lucerne that we do, where you have the opportunity to take the boat, then the train from the base up to the top, and then cable car down, which you see in the top left image there, along the mountainside and back down into the valley. Our other peaks like Mount Titlis or Mount Rigi, which we didn't have a chance to really experience in detail today. Switzerland has no end of amazing sights to experience. Another great trip for a quick visit through Switzerland, or sort of a highlights of Switzerland, is our classic Glacier and Bernina Express, where you get a chance to experience both of these famous train journeys, as well as that day trip to the top of the Jungfraujoch. So beginning in Zurich, you head on down. You have a chance to take the train on down into Interlaken, the Jungfraujoch day trip, then the Glacier Express across to Kur, and that round trip Bernina journey out of Kur down through St Moritz to Tirano. So if you're looking for something a little briefer, a little bit of chance to get a flavor of Switzerland, but maybe not invest a huge length of time, this is a great way to capture 3 of its most iconic experiences. One point I wanted to come back to as well, I mentioned that one of the great virtues of booking with Railbookers is that we can customize your trip. Because there is no group, because there's no one else following a set itinerary with you, the fact is that some of the things we've looked at today and the lots of other trips that we have available to you are our best recommendations. But at the end of the day, whatever change makes it your perfect vacation is possible. So what are the types of things we can do? And I thought I'd mention a few. We can add on any destination. There's a couple we didn't get a chance to mention today. So if you have other places in Switzerland you're thinking of, other countries entirely, and you see an itinerary that's almost but not quite a perfect match for what you're looking for, well, no problem. Our experts, our train and vacation experts, are here to help exactly with that. They can make those adjustments for you with no problem. If you want to make a trip a round trip journey, you're ending in Kur, but you really want to go back to Zurich and head out from there, no problem. You want to book a trip in reverse and start and end in completely different points, absolutely possible. And it doesn't end there. Additional sightseeing. Maybe you want to spend longer in any of the destinations I mentioned. Maybe Lugano sounds perfect and tranquil, or you want to explore Lake Lucerne a little bit more. No problem. We can extend your stay, upgrade your hotels, add additional experiences. You name it, folks. Whatever you're looking for, pretty much we can do. Another point I mentioned that I wanted to come back to as well is Switzerland as a crossroads of Europe. And it's not just about great journeys into Switzerland and Switzerland alone. Oftentimes our guests are trying to experience Switzerland as part of a larger European itinerary, connecting other great regions and other great countries of Europe. And that's certainly possible. I'm going to very quickly kind of run through a few ideas, a few possibilities where that Switzerland as crossroads is a great experience. Italy and Switzerland, I will tell you, is a very popular combination. Something like Venice and the Bernina Express gives you a chance to experience Swiss mountain peaks and all the charm of Italy. Where in this case, you begin in Zurich, or again, whatever point makes sense to you. Travel down through the heart of Switzerland, follow the Bernina Express route down into northern Italy, spending a night in Milan, and then training over for a 3-night stay in historic Venice. Great option. Great blend of both countries. For those really looking for alpine experiences in Switzerland and beyond, traveling through the awe-inspiring Arlberg Pass from Zurich to Salzburg and then on to Vienna, very tough to beat. One thing I'll mention too, we talked about expanding destinations or adding sightseeing. Salzburg is actually one of my favorite places to recommend to do that. It's Mozart's hometown, which you may or may not know. From there, you can do Mozart experiences. For those who are big Sound of Music fans, for example, we can include sightseeing tours to take in the movie sites, or my personal favorite, you can take a day journey out to historic Hallstatt, this great mountain town, one of the most photographed places in Austria, located right on the shores of one of its best mountain lakes and at the foot of the mountains. Really pristine and an excellent addition to your trip. And then it, of course, ends in Vienna, the historic capital of Austria. For those looking for a trip across Europe but want to experience Switzerland as part of that, London to Rome European Highlights is a great way to do it. It'll take you from the great cities of London and Paris through the majestic mountains of Switzerland with a stop in Lucerne in the middle. Head up on Mount Pilatus from there, and then on down south through the mountain passes, through Milan, on down to the 3 great destinations everybody has to see in their life when they visit Italy, and that is Venice, Florence, and Rome. So for somebody looking for a European trip, wanting to visit multiple countries, multiple regions and destinations, but want Switzerland to be part of that, London to Rome European Highlights is a great way to do so. One last trip I want to show you, European Wonderland, is a fantastic trip. You travel north from Milan along the Bernina Express route, which I argued is it's a toss-up between whether that or the Glacier Express is more magnificent. You go up to Switzerland's mountains and lakes, and on to 4 great cities and centers of culture and history, whether it's Salzburg, Mozart's hometown, which I had mentioned, Vienna with its impressive imperial architecture and its vibrant cafes, on to Prague with its many bridges, its historic old town, and then finally Munich, the center of Bavaria, which is located at the foothills of the Alps. Great way to experience Europe and the whole Alpine region. So before we get to some questions, just wanted to touch on a few more quick things and revisit a couple important points. Why take the train? And at this point, folks, it's all those reasons you know so well. It's the unforgettable scenery. It's the comfort and the relaxation on board, and a journey that is ultimately every bit as enjoyable as the great destinations we're connecting you to. The other thing is, I'm always inspired, and sincerely, thank you for joining us today, because I've had the privilege to travel the world, and so much of it by train. And I'm constantly thinking about my next vacation. And I'm always interested, for those of you taking the time to learn a little bit more about rail travel and about Switzerland today, then what is it you're interested in experiencing the most? Was it one of these great destinations or trains I mentioned today? Was it something else entirely? Maybe I've inspired you to take a train journey, but maybe it's something beyond Switzerland. I'd love to know, and feel free to share it. I can see some of you popping in some comments already. Feel free to throw into that questions point. Tell me what you're dreaming of, what you're thinking of for your next trip. Hopefully I've had a chance to fill you with awe at some of the beautiful scenery you can see in Switzerland, but maybe it's something else. Either way, thanks for sharing. I'd love to hear some more. I can see the Bernina Express popping up in here a number of times, justifiably. Wow. Okay, some fantastic response. Switzerland definitely is high on everybody's list. No surprise. Yeah, and like I said, my recommendations, you got to see at least any trip that does those 2 trains, Glacier Express and Bernina. and takes in some mountains and some lakes will give you a real flavor of Switzerland. So thank you for sharing, everyone. And the fact is, we've been doing this for quite a while, folks. Since 1972, we've been sending customers on some great vacations, independent trips. We send people every single year, thousands of them, all over North America, Europe, and beyond. And we're really proud of the response and the amazing life experiences we've been able to provide to so many customers like yourselves. And just to revisit those reasons why, the short hold times and how easy it is to reach us, the bucket list experiences on and off the train, the independent travel aspect, no tour leader, no minute-to-minute itinerary, no group. You go at your own pace. The amazing scenery on and off the train, the comfort and room to roam on board, the fact that we can tailor make or customize every trip to suit your particular taste, and the fact that every piece of your vacation we include for you. It's a one-stop shop. All those are great reasons why to book your next train vacation in Switzerland or beyond with us. And we've been recognized not only by our customers, but by the travel industry for excellence in terms of what we offer to so many every year. Before we get to questions, just a couple last things. And I mentioned this before, but what we spoke about is really just the tip of the iceberg, or I guess probably more appropriate for Switzerland, I should say tip of the glacier, I guess, of what's possible in terms of Swiss train vacations and amazing destinations we ever go. We go all over the world. I mean, in fact, even within Switzerland, there's some places we didn't get a chance to talk about in greater detail, like Mount Rigi, mountain towns like Wengen, or beautiful Locarno on the shores of Lake Maggiore down towards Italy. Whether it's more of Switzerland or more of the world that you want to see, I highly encourage you after today's presentation, if you're still looking for inspiration and ideas or just the possible variations to help pick the perfect trip for you, visit us at railbookers.com. Take a look and see what's out there. Definitely also give us a call. Our team is standing by. Their rail experts are there to help you at 1-888-829-3040. Give us a call. They'll answer your questions. They'll point you in the right direction. And of course, get you the right perfect vacation, even if that's including some adjustments down to make it a perfect fit for you. Also on our website, if you'd like something a little more tangible, you can also download our brochures. We have sent out our brochures for Railbookers or some of our regional specialty brochures on Trenitalia, Via Rail in Canada, or other places. Don't forget, of course, that our free handouts, those reference tools from today's presentation, you can click on right there and download for future reference. And I've seen a number of questions popping in, and thank you. I'm going to get to those in just a second. Please feel free to send any you want in right now. If I don't get to your question today, and I apologize because I will not get to everybody, please know I will make sure that we do reach out to follow up and get you the information you're looking for every single question. Okay, so with no further ado, with a few minutes left to us, let me get to some of those key questions out there. And I see a number coming in. Let me just take a quick look and I'll grab a few. Some of you have similar questions and I'll try to grab one that's a good representation for what you're asking. Okay, I have a question from Larry who's asking about my point on customized trips. He said, is there additional charge for customizing my vacation? Good question, Larry. There is no additional charge. What I mean is there's no surcharge. If we're making a longer trip or combining two vacations, that sort of thing, of course, the price may vary from what the basic package costs, but there is no fee, no surcharge, or any additional cost specifically for us doing a customization. It's just part of the service that we offer to all Railbookers customers. But great question. If you need to customize a trip, no additional charges, Larry, for doing that. None whatsoever. Tony wants to know, what is the best side of the train to be seated on? The best side of the train to be seated on is really subjective. I mean, the fact is that as you take a long train journey, say like the Glacier Express or Bernina Express, over the course of that trip, the fact is the scenery out one side will be spectacular for a stretch, then the other side for a stretch. Two things make that no problem. Number one, those beautiful panoramic windows in so many of these scenic train routes mean that whichever side you're seated on and whichever way you're looking, you have great, again, horizon to sky views of the mountains, the rivers, the cliffs, waterfalls, you name it. So it doesn't really matter which side of the train you're seated on, you're going to get great views throughout the course of the journey. And don't forget, the second point on that one, you have room to roam, Tony, so you can get up. If you want to move to an open seat on the other side and get a better view from there, head on down to a different car. You can certainly do that. So you definitely will not miss any great sightseeing, no matter which side of the train you're seated on. Very, very good question. Okay, I have a few more. Kim wanted to know, okay, this is a good one. Kim wanted to know, what is your personal recommendation? What is your favorite train? What is your favorite destination within Switzerland? Wow, okay, tough one. Thanks for asking, Kim. Let me say this. There are no end of amazing train journeys and destinations. If I'm forced to pick my personal favorites, um, wow, the Bernina Express, I would say, train wise, but definitely only doing one of those and not like doing the Bernina, not the Glacier, you're missing out. So I encourage everybody to do two. But the Bernina Express probably wins out, and part of it has to do with that insider tip I mentioned. That's quick stop at Alpgrum. To me, is sort of like the consummate Swiss experience in terms of landscapes and mountains and glaciers and that sort of thing. So for trains, Bernina, slight edge. As far as towns, again, lots of competition on this one. I'm going to make it a toss-up between Lucerne in the center of the country, which has a very traditionally Swiss, German type feel, beautiful mountains surrounding it, a spectacular lake, great chance to try some Swiss cuisine. The competitor for that one, and again, I'll keep this as a toss-up, would be Lugano in the south, that great blend of Swiss and Italian culture, and a great blend of Swiss and Italian landscapes, mountains, and beautiful lakes. So that one's a little bit of a tie for me. Okay, couple other questions I'll be able to get to, folks, before we have to wrap up today. Let me take a look here. And can I book online? We had a question from Harold about booking online. You can certainly look online, Harold. In fact, I encouraged you earlier on to do that, and I think you should, especially if you're still looking for inspirations and ideas. Our full range of options is out there. All the destinations we feature, the train routes, some great combinations, are most popular, some of which we discussed today, but certainly many, many more. In the end, what I will tell you is that most customers, Harold, are actually going to call into us and speak to an expert in it because they always have questions and they always are looking for that expertise. And there's something special about talking to a person who's done these trips firsthand and knows the trains and knows the hotels and such from having seen it themselves. So while you definitely are encouraged to shop online and look for some ideas there, when you're getting closer and you have questions and you're thinking about booking and you really want to get into the details, definitely hop off the website and give us a call at that 888-829-3040 number and have one of our rail and vacation experts help consult with you on your dream vacation. And folks, I have time for one more question. I'm gonna go ahead and grab it now. Paul wanted to know, if I'm looking at booking a vacation, do I have to pay in full once I'm ready? Good question. All right, so Paul, no, you do not have to pay in full. Typically, all it requires to book and reserve a vacation with us is $250 deposit per person at the time of your booking. So if you're traveling later this year, you're traveling for next year, you don't have to pay the full value of your trip up front. You pay that deposit amount up front. And the final payment is typically due 90 days prior to departure. And whether you choose to pay installments on that, Paul, like a little bit at a time up to that point, or just pay the full balance at 90 days is up to you. So long as full payment is completed 90 days prior, you're all set. But no, you do not have to pay in full right up front to reserve your trip. Folks, before we go, just a couple notes. We know the world has changed quite a bit in the last few months. If you're like me, you're aching to travel again. You're ready to go once it's safe and we're able to do so. And just want to let you know, wherever in the world you are, wherever in the world we are, and we're all over waiting for you. We're here. We're ready when you're ready. So as you're planning, as you have questions, if you just want to know more, or if you're already ready to go ahead and book that next great vacation, give us a call, visit us online. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you sincerely from me to you. Again, I love travel. I've had a chance to view the world. I've had a chance to ride some amazing trains all over North America, Europe, and beyond. And spending time with you, sharing a little bit about those experiences, how wonderful they are, and what a great trip they would represent for your next vacation means a lot, as well as hearing from you. For those who shared what they're dreaming about, what inspired them for their next trip, thank you sincerely for sharing that and for being with me here today. I hope it's been an inspiration. I hope it's been informative to you, and I certainly looking forward to seeing you out there on the rails this year and beyond. Thank you so much, folks. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you soon.